Hi friends, today we are going to discuss another debugging topic of encountering high latencies. So as you already know, API, from API we mean HTTP API, and latency is the time taken by the HTTP API to give us a response. It is time taken. So how will we go about debugging high API latencies? So before debugging high API latencies, let's see a general scenario in which it can be encountered. For example, you are accessing some application on your phone, and this request is going to your server. Okay. And normally the API would respond in 20 millisecond, but on a bad day when the latencies are high, let's say the API was responding in 200 millisecond. So this is the case that we are trying to debug. How will we find out what is taking this 200 millisecond, or what is the reason for this increase in time taken by the API to respond? So how are you going to debug this scenario in which the users are facing high latency? Another scenario can also be that instead of a user application calling the server, there is a service A which is calling your service, which is service B, and it is calling a particular API, let's say XYZ. And earlier, this API used to give response in 20 milliseconds, and now this API is giving response in 200 milliseconds. So that is a breach of contract or the breach of application. To debug this, we have to first visualize in our minds what is actually happening behind the scenes, or what can be the possible scenarios which can lead to high latencies. So before any of this, we have to visualize all the components that may be coming in picture when our API is traveling through the service, or what throughout the journey of our API. Okay, so let's try to visualize this. Let's try to visualize how our API is behaving. Let's say all the API calls, whether a service A is calling or some application is calling. This is our ELB. These are all hypothetical scenarios. Until and unless you know what exactly is the case, you can just imagine what can be happening, and where do you want to look further. So this is our ELB, and let's say our API is XYZ slash XYZ is our API. Some domain slash XYZ is our API, and this is landing on our server S1, and there are two servers, let's say S2. And generally people can imagine this is the scenario. So what are the different components that are coming in this picture? Just a moment, let me copy it so that we can discuss it further. So what can be the different problems that can arise? The different problem areas can be, first of all, there is some problem in the calling service, so that the API is taking time. That is a very less probable scenario. That can be possible with the user applications. For example, user has bad internet, but it is very less likely in cases of service to service call. So this in scenario where service A is calling service B, these are called service to service API calls, or S2S calls in general. So S2S is a very common terminology in computers, where service A is calling service B rather than user A calling service B. So there can be a problem in the user side or the client side that is calling the API. There can be problem in the ELB portion. For example, on a very bad day, there is some problem with the load balancer which is handling the request. So that can be the case. It is less likely, but it is one of the probable scenarios. you can debug it at the very ending stages when you're not able to find any source of error or high latency. Another probable scenario is there is some problem in our service instances. For example, let's say there is no auto scaling configured on this service. So the number of calls that are coming to our service is very high, suddenly became very high due to sale or something, and the resource utilization on these boxes shot up, and which is leading to high latencies. So one way of mitigating this is you can configure auto scaling group, which can basically increase the number of boxes when the load on existing boxes increases. So that is one of the scenarios. Now, if we are able to imagine only these components, then we are about to run out of ideas. So we have to dig further what can be happening behind the scenes during an API call. So let's say during the API call, there are some components which are outside server S1. When this possibility opens up that there is some components on which our service S1 is dependent, then we will be able to debug considering those components also. So what can be the other components which can be utilized during this API call? So one of the components, very frequent components, is database. Let's say there's a database which is being accessed during this this API call. There can be another API which /abc, which is being called when XYZ is being called. So for example, when user calls to get /XYZ, then service A is performing some computation, then calling API /abc, and upon its result, it is doing some extra calculation and then returning the response for the initial API call. So what is happening in this scenario is, let's say this is the user, and this is our service B, sorry, which is basically serving the request. So user calls /XYZ, then service B calls /ABC API or service C /ABC. Its response comes, and service B does some computation. For example, it takes 20 milliseconds, or rather it takes 5 milliseconds to do some computation on response for ABC API call, and then service A returns the response for /XYZ. So if there is any problem in /ABC API call, which is being called internally from service B, then it is going to lead to higher latencies. So this is the time taken. The time taken to service request ABC can increase the time taken by the API call XYZ. So it can be an external API call. Another possible scenario is caching is also a type of database, but let's consider it separately. For example, there is caching. Okay, let's try to consider these scenarios one by one and what could be their mitigation steps. So let's try to consider this scenario. Let's say that our database is choked up. One of the scenarios in here can be high CPU on the database due to any reason. That can be because of any external query. External query, by external query I mean there is another service /SX which is calling API, which is calling our database, and it is sending some bad SQL queries, which are increasing the CPU utilization on our database, and it is leading to high CPU. And since there is high CPU on our database, it is leading to higher query times. That, for example, if the select statements or the update statements were, let's say, initially taking 5 millisecond to complete, but due to high CPU, they are taking 50 milliseconds. They can be taking 50 milliseconds. They can be taking much higher amount of time to complete those queries. So they can be high CPU. It can also be because of bad SQL queries from S1. Okay, there can be bad SQL queries which are running from S1. So S1 is sending, or service S is sending bad SQL queries, which is leading to a high CPU, high query time on the database side. It can also be because of some instance level bad hardware at the database end. For example, the hardware on which database is running has degraded performance due to cloud providers end or any other reason. It can also be because of disk that is attached to the database. So this is the database and this is the disk that is attached to the database. So if there is degradation in performance of the disk that is attached, so it can be disk bad on the database. It can be also because of bad SQL queries we have already discussed. It can be because of locking in SQL. So that is again a case of bad SQL or bad queries running on the database. So these are the most probable scenarios for the database side. Let's consider the API side. For example, service S1 or service S is calling /abc, and if this API call is taking it was initially taking 5 milliseconds and now it is taking 100 milliseconds. Okay, then there is no issue on the S1 side. There is no issue on the S1 side, but there is issue on the service that is hosting /abc API call. So we must inform that service owner that /abc call has high latencies, which is basically degrading the performance of our service B. So we should inform that service owner. If it is our own service, then we should go about the same way debugging the service owner for service for ABC API call. Okay, so that can be the case that service S2S call for /abc is taking high response time. Another case can be caching. So before discussing caching, let's understand what caching is in a very short way. So for example, you have a service which is getting /get name equals ID equals 123. Okay, and then this service or the server is returning the name of that ID. Okay, so behind the scenes, what will be happening? This is our server. This server will be calling the database, and this database will be sending ID equals 123, select star from table where ID equals 123, and it is going to return the name, and that name is going to be returned in the actual API call. All is well and good, but how can we optimize the performance of our API? So we have to find out scopes for improvement. One of the scope for improvement is this database. In databases, the data is saved in disk, hard disk or SSD, HDD, hard disk or SSD. SSDs are basically faster than hard disk, so ultimately it is going to be stored in the hard disk. We already know that memory, accessing data from memory is faster than accessing data from disk. Okay, from SSD, and accessing data from SSD is faster than accessing data from HDD. HDD is hard disk or magnetic hard disk. So if we can somehow store this piece of information in memory, then we can increase the speed of retrieval of name on the basis of ID. So there are databases like Redis and other databases also which can help us store some data in memory. Okay. One more thing to consider is this is basically time taken by SSD is greater than HDD and time taken by HDD is greater than SSD. But cost wise, memories are expensive than SSD, and this is basically RAM that we are talking about. Accessing data in RAM is faster than accessing data in SSD, and accessing data in SSD is faster than accessing data in magnetic hard disk. But from cost perspective also, memory's cost is higher. SSDs are cheaper than RAM, and magnetic hard disks are even cheaper than SSDs. That's why you can see that your systems have 1 TB of hard disk and only 8 to 16 GB of RAM. Why is that the case? This is the case because RAM is expensive and hard disk is comparatively cheaper. So what we can do is we design caching systems in which we store frequently used data inside memory. We can store that piece of data on our servers, inside the memory of our servers, or we can take dedicated servers where we can store the data in memory. Okay, these are called caching servers. So that caching generally means that we are storing frequently accessed items in a faster storage so that their retrieval is faster. So once we get ID equals response for ID equals 1 to 3, it can give the response and simultaneously it is going to save 1 to 3 and its corresponding value. For example, the name was Ankush. If the name was Ankush or any name, let's say if the name was Rahul, how we can go about doing it? So next time when the request comes for ID 123, it is going to first check in the caching store and it is going to check whether value for 123 is present. If it is present, then it is going to give the response. If it is not present, then it is going to go to the database, and then from the database it is going to retrieve the data, and then it is going to send the response, and simultaneously it is going to store that piece of information in our caching servers. So next time, how is this providing us improvement? So let's say this API call was taking 40 milliseconds. Okay, so sorry, this SQL query or the query to the database was taking 40 milliseconds, and we introduced caching servers. So, and the time taken by caching servers was, let's say, 10 milliseconds. So we have reduced the time to get data for a particular ID. That is the type of speed up that we are looking for. Initially, for some API calls, it is going to take 40 milliseconds in those cases where the data is not present in the cache, and in the cases where the data is present in the cache, it is going to be served in 10 milliseconds. Okay, so we are basically reducing the latency of our APIs by using a faster data storage layer. Since it is costly, since a faster storage layer is costly, we are only saving few frequent records in the caching store, and the rest of the records which are not frequently used are directly accessed from the database or the cheaper storage device. So let's see how is this going to impact our latency. So suppose what happens is our caching layer goes down. Our caching layer is not accessible. Programs are generally written that if caching layer is not present, then queries or the data will be retrieved from the database. So what will happen is the API calls which were taking 10 milliseconds will now be taking 40 milliseconds, because time taken for access from database is 40 milliseconds and time taken to access data from caching is 10 milliseconds. So the time taken to retrieve data from database or retrieve the data or the API latency will eventually increase, because earlier time taken was 10 milliseconds, but now to retrieve that same data it is taking 40 milliseconds. So one of the disadvantage is that at the first hand our time taking is going to increase. Another side effect of this happening is the number of queries which are going to the database are also increasing, because earlier many of the requests would have been served from the caching store or caching database, but since this caching database has gone down or has become or has basically crashed, more queries are going to be hitting to our database. So what is going to happen? CPU on this database or the resource utilization on this database is going to increase, and since resource utilization is going to increase, it is going to queries are going to take more time than normal. So under normal circumstances, if it would have taken 40 milliseconds, now it is going to take, let's say, 100 milliseconds. You can see how this is creating a domino effect. First, caching failed. Due to caching fail, the time taken by the API was increased to 40 milliseconds, or time taken to retrieve the data was increased to 40 milliseconds. But since the number of calls to the database have increased, as no calls are being sent to the caching database, so the CPU or the resource utilization on our database or primary database is going to increase, which is in turn going to increase the time taken by the API database queries. So it has created a feedback system, or it has created a double impact on our system. Okay, another possible scenario is, let's say the caching system did not go down. Rather than going down, it is having bad latencies, or it has basically degraded. By degraded, I mean earlier it was giving response in 10 milliseconds. Let's say the hardware of this instance or the software of this instance has degraded or crashed, due to which it is now taking 50 milliseconds. Okay, so what is happening is we are taking more time than normal to access the data from cache. You can see, so API latency is going to increase. So this is how you first of all imagine or visualize what all components can be coming in picture during an API call, and then you are going to think about what can go wrong in all of these systems which can contribute to higher latency. And similar is the logic for debugging 5xx or error codes. If any of the downstream system or upstream system performs badly, then it is going to impact your service. And this knowledge is going to help you debug production scenarios in which either you are getting higher latency, or it's similar can be a case in which you're getting errors on your service. So if the code on the service or code on your service is not written well, and if caching system goes down, let's say your service S1 crashes because it is not able to access the caching database. So that can also be a case. So generally it is a practice that if caching system is not online or not available due to any reason, then the queries will fall back to main database. And we have also seen that falling back the queries to the main database can have a cyclic effect of increasing the CPU utilization and increasing the time taken to query the database further. So whatever is the scenario, try to break down it into components, try to imagine, try to draw what each component can be doing, what other things can be getting accessed, and how it is going to impact your service or the components which are impacted, and then try to come up with your answers. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you and have a nice day.